Hey, what's up everybody? Welcome back to the channel. A few days ago I went down to Bass Pro Shops and I picked up this Prowler 12 John boat and immediately put a swivel seat on the front and a trolling motor. This boat does have a trolling motor bracket up on the front of it, and the first time I took the boat out I realized that even with the handle extended all the way out, sitting in the seat, it's hard to reach that handle. The easiest way to fix that problem would be get a handle extension for that motor. You could pick one up for less than 20 bucks on Amazon or down at Bass Pro Shops. But what I decided to do was convert the motor to remote control using this one-handed remote. A feature of this remote and the system that I used for it is if you hold the throttle forward or back, you can press this button on the back of the remote for cruise control. And then you could adjust the speed by pressing it forward or pressing it back to slow down. So in this video I'm going to go over how I converted this trolling motor into remote control. The first thing I did was take this motor mount and steering box off of the kayak project that I posted a couple videos ago, because I already had adapted this bracket to work with this Minn Kota power drive gearbox. But if you were going to use the mounting bracket that came with this trolling motor, you just have to shave off these little tabs right here. You could use this hole that goes all the way through the gearbox itself, run a rod through that, and then use it to mount it to the motor clamp. The way I have this one set up is I took the locking mechanism out for the tilt on the bracket, replaced it with this aluminum square tube, and you can see I have this bolt running through the tube and the actual steering box itself. That way I could have it set up on this linear actuator. This is not necessary. You can have manual tilt. You just have to change the way you mount this box into the bracket. When I had this on my kayak, I didn't want to reach behind me to tilt the motor up, so I used this linear actuator. On this particular boat, I opted to keep the actuator because this front piece right here isn't reinforced like the back transom is. And even with this 30-pound trolling motor, if you put it in full speed forward, this whole piece would flex. So this actuator actually provides extra support for this front mount. That will be the same way on the Prowler 12, the Sun Dolphin American 12, or whatever the blue and white version of this boat is that you can get at West Marine. They're all the same boat, the only difference is the color. So anyways, I have this on here to reinforce this so it doesn't flex while I'm using the motor, and I can use this actuator to actually tilt the motor back up. So real quick, I'm going to talk about how I actually put all this together. The first task is to get this box mounted on the actual motor mount, but to do that you need to take the motor out of the mount. There are 6 screws up on the bottom of this motor head. Inside here there is a switch that's connected to this handle, and it has 6 wires plugged into the back of it. Pop the 4 wires off that are coming out of the shaft. You don't have to worry about these 2 wires because they'll stay in the bottom of the motor head. Then you can see up in here there's a little nut on the back side. There's a screw, it's a Phillips head screw. Undo that, pull the screw out, and then this whole motor head will lift off of the shaft. You don't have to cut any wires, just undo the 4 wires on the switch. You don't have to remember where those or what port each of those wires came from, because the switch is labeled with what color those wires are supposed to be. After you have that off, you could loosen the locking collar on the trolling motor, and then the whole thing will slide out of the bottom of this bracket. After you're done connecting the steering box to the bracket and have that set up how you want it, you just slide the motor up through the bottom of this box. Feed the wires through first. Be careful not to damage those. Something important about this, you will need to use this steering collar that comes with this box. If you see right here the shape of this steering collar, it comes down at a sharp angle right there. Inside the gearbox there is a bracket that sticks up and locks into place on that, and that's how these gears actually turn the motor head. This steering box is compatible with any trolling motor that uses just the standard size motor shaft like this Minn Kota, or I previously had it mounted on this Haswing brushless trolling motor, has the same size shaft. It will not work for these water snake trolling motors. The water snake 24-pound and 18-pound thrust trolling motors that you can get on Amazon have a smaller shaft, so this will not work with it properly. From there, once you have this put back together and have your brackets where you have it mounted on your boat, you're going to want to be able to control both the steering and the speed for the motor. So that brings us to the one modification that I actually made to the trolling motor. I cut the terminal clips off the end of the wire, and I connected this SAE connector so I could quickly plug it into the box that has the battery and the speed controllers inside. To make this connection inside the electrical tape, I ended up using 2 of these. They're self-soldering heat shrink tubes. So there's a little band of solder in there, and the colored bands on either end of the tube are glue. So as you heat this up with a lighter or a heat gun, the tube will shrink, the glue and the solder will melt, and it will create a waterproof soldered joint connecting the wires together securely and safely. I just wrapped it in electrical tape because you could see these wires are loose and these wires are loose, and I didn't want them catching on anything. For this wire coming out of the steering box, it has a red and black wire coming out of it, just like the trolling motor. I extended it and connected it to this wire. This is an LED extension wire. You can see it has a little waterproof seal O-ring inside this end of the wire, and you just plug it in like that. The reason the short end is on the motor side for this motor is because I did have this mounted on the back of the kayak, so it would just need to plug in that far to the port sticking out of the kayak. I have this wire running down through the top of the box with the controllers inside the box. If you're building this and using this kind of quick connect so you can disconnect the battery box from the motor, I would suggest putting the short end of this connector on the battery side. But like I said, I recycled this mount from my kayak project, so I had to make a small compromise on how I actually have it connected. From there, that brings us to the control box for it all. You have this cable coming out that connects to the steering box, and you have this cable that plugs in right here. This is for the motor. In this box right now, I have a 30 amp hour 12 volt lithium iron phosphate battery. This is what powers the whole thing. I have this battery running out to this power distribution board. You do not need to use this power distribution board. You can use one of these SAE splitters. It has one end that connects to the battery and then has 2 outputs on it. However you set it up, you do need to supply power to 2 of these RadioLink CL9030 electronic speed controllers. You can see I have this one mounted here. The power comes in from the distribution board. The power goes out to this top port where the motor plugs in. The second one is the same way. It has the power coming in from the distribution board and then going out to this wire that goes out to the steering box. For the RC portion of this, to allow this controller to work, you can order this Habsabin one-handed RC remote on Amazon. It's typically going between $30 and $35 depending on whether or not it's on sale. And it comes with 2 of these RC receivers, and this is powered by the signal control wire from the ESCs. So you just plug them in. I have the steering plugged into channel 1, and I have the throttle plugged into channel 2. So when I press it forward, the throttle goes, or when I go side to side, the steering goes. The reason this steering box works with this electronic speed controller is because inside this box there is a small brushed DC motor, the same kind of motor that's in the trolling motor head. So that allows me to use this remote control ESC to actually steer with the remote. When you plug this in, the first time you turn on the RC receiver, there's a little button right here on the front of it. Hold that down until the green light starts rapidly flashing, and then turn on the remote, and that will pair that receiver to this remote. And then all you have to do is plug the cables on the trolling motor into the ports on the box. For the ports coming out of the box, I do have this SAE plug, so you can plug this in while having the box closed. And then to get this wire out, because this is the kind of wire I used, I just used a gland nut. It's got a little rubber seal in it, so when you tighten this top part, the seal closes around it and makes a secure watertight connection on that cable. There are a lot of options you could go with. Like you could see here, I have another 3-port connector that is on a waterproof plug, but that can't be used for this because that's for a different project that I'm using this box for. So is this GPS antenna. And in an upcoming video, I'm going to explain all of that to you, but using this same setup with the same 2 speed controllers and this Minipix flight controller, I'm going to give this remote control trolling motor spot lock. Setting this up once you have it built is really easy. Close the box, take your trolling motor, plug it into the port on the front, take the cable for steering, plug this in, set the handle to 5 forward. That'll give you the full range of power out of the trolling motor. And because the electronic speed controller in the box is able to reverse the polarity, you could put the motor in reverse or go forward by using the joystick. So when you plug this in, make sure you have the handle set to whatever the max speed going forward is. And now you have steering and throttle. You could use the same setup on any brushed trolling motor that has the same size shaft, but this will not work for a brushless motor. The brushless motor uses a different kind of speed controller, and especially with the one I have in the back, that speed controller is built into the head of the motor. So you cannot use this with a brushless trolling motor. If, when you're mounting this steering box onto the motor mount itself, if you don't take out the locking mechanism to where you can manually tilt it, you won't need this, and then you could use this on any boat or kayak that has a transom and can support the weight of the motor. This box does add like 3 or 4 pounds to the whole thing, so that could be a lot of weight for the back of a smaller kayak. But this is a universal system if you don't take off the locking mechanism for the tilt. But I wanted it to be able to tilt, and like I said, I needed to reinforce this front bracket so it doesn't flex while I'm on the water. That's going to do it for this video. You can see it has full functionality, and I can control this from the very back of the boat. If you're interested in this project, or if there's something you would have done different, leave a comment down below. I'd love to hear your thoughts on it. And if you're interested in seeing how I give this thing spot lock, stay tuned for another video because that one is coming up and I'm pretty sure it's going to be interesting. But that's going to do it for this video. I hope you enjoyed it, and I will catch you on the next one.